The newly founded tribal Hungarian state became an important power in Central Europe that even successfully managed to conduct fierce campaigns and raids to regions as far as what is now modern-day Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy and Spain. After their armies had been defeated in 955 at the Battle of Lechfeld, Hungary turned to the east and launched successful attacks against Byzantine territories. But after more serious defeats and internal conflicts, the integrity of the tribal alliance was in danger. Grand Prince Géza recognized the importance of securing his bloodline and ensuring the country's survival and a stable position in Europe. His goal was to integrate Hungary into the Christian West, introducing the new religion along with its social and political templates. Priests from today's Italy and Germany arrived, including Gellert or Gerard in English, who became the tutor of the son of Géza, and later the first bishop of Hungary. By appointing his own son Vajk his heir, he broke the old tribal rules that demanded the power be passed on to the eldest living male in the family. Vajk was baptized and given the new name István, Stephen in English. For his son Géza found a wife who was related to the German emperor, and the marriage with Gisela of Bavaria secured the country's foreign relations. After the death of his father, Stephen became the leader of the tribes and managed to defeat his opposition led by his uncle Duke Koppány. Stephen was crowned first king of Hungary in Esztergom on the 1st of January 1001. Pope Sylvester II granted him full power of holding the cross and founding bishoprics. The church in Hungary gained independence, which helped the king too to stabilize a strong position for Hungary in Europe. Stephen established a network of 10 episcopal and 2 archiepiscopal sees and ordered the foundation of monasteries, churches and cathedrals all around his realm. Because of his excellent work in upholding Christianity, Stephen was canonized by the church in 1083, and so was his son Prince Emmerich, who died before his father, and Bishop Gerard, who died as a martyr when was killed by pagans rebelling against the new faith after the death of the first king. But the line of Árpád was carried on by other descendants of the great leader, ensuring continuity and power of the dynasty for the upcoming 2 centuries. Many magnificent and mighty kings rose to the throne. As King Saint Ladislaus succeeded to the Croatian throne in 1091, Croatia became an associated country of Hungary under the reign of the Holy Crown of Saint Stephen, which meant a personal union between the countries for the upcoming 827 years. King Béla III was the wealthiest and most powerful among the early rulers of Hungary, who also managed to expand the kingdom towards the Balkans. King Andrew II assembled the largest royal army in the history of crusades, 20,000 knights and 12,000 castle garrisons, joining the Fifth Crusade to the Holy Land in 1217. By issuing his famous charter, the so-called Golden Bull, in 1222, Andrew reaffirmed the rights of barons and provided the nation with the right of resistance against the crown. The document is similar to England's Magna Carta and is regarded as the first written constitutional document in continental Europe. With the Golden Bull, Hungary was the first country with a parliament that had supremacy over the sovereign. After the tragic Battle of Muhi, the Mongolian armies led by Batu Khan invaded Hungary in 1241-1242, demolishing the vast majority of settlements and killing a significant part of the population. After the Mongol invasion of Hungary had ended, King Béla IV reorganized the state and the royal administration from its ashes. He has been referred to as the second founder of the country, as an honor for his achievements. He also ordered that major cities be fortified with stone walls. Among others, the foundation of Buda too was a result of that, allowing Buda to become the seat of the kings of Hungary throughout the following centuries. The male line of the Árpád dynasty died out with the death of King Andrew III in 1301. King Charles I the Great, from the House of Anjou, was related to the Arpads by the female line. He managed to defeat the oligarchs and restore central royal power. He rose to be an important ruler because of his fiscal and monetary policies, which were based on the trade in gold, silver and salt mined in the northern regions of the country and in Transylvania. He also secured Hungary's diplomatic relations with the main powers of the region. The medieval congress between the kings Charles I of Hungary, John I of Bohemia, and Casimir III of Poland, an event that shaped the history of Central Europe for many centuries, took place in the castle of Visegrad in 1335. His son, Louis the Great, extended his rule to some Adriatic territories and managed to occupy the Kingdom of Naples several times. Thanks to his father's arrangement and his marriage, he also became the King of Poland. He conquered various Balkan states such as Wallachia, Moldova, Serbia and Bosnia, while a new enemy was rising in the southeast, the Ottoman Turks. Louis led successful campaigns against them, but he is also famed for founding the first Hungarian university in Pécs, 1367. After the death of Louis, a prince from the German imperial line, Sigismund of Luxembourg, came to the throne. Thanks to his political power, he managed to strengthen his central royal power and exert his influence even on papal politics. Later, he was elected Holy Roman Emperor too. The Golden Age of Buda Castle and the Royal Palace is also connected to him, as his seat was the largest Gothic palace in the world that time. The same palace was a great center of humanist Renaissance philosophy and art during the reign of King Matthias Corvinus in the late 15th century. King Matthias Corvinus was the son of the famous and mighty warlord and governor of Hungary, John of Hunyad. In an Ottoman siege in 1456, John managed to defend the castle of Nándorfehérvár, which is called Belgrade today and is the capital of Serbia. Nándorfehérvár castle was one of the most important forts along the southern defense line of Hungary. By this victory, John of Hunyad halted the Ottoman advance in the Balkans and in the rest of Europe for decades. During the siege, Pope Calixtus III ordered that church bells all around Europe be rung every day at noon, as a call for believers to pray for the defenders of the city. The tradition of ringing the bells at noon persists to this day in the Christian world, commemorating a notable historic event. John of Hunyad's son, Matthias, is remembered as Matthias the Just, one of the most well-known and beloved kings of Hungary. Matthias reformed the state administration and tax policies, and emerged as a key player on the international political chessboard. With the help of his troops, the famous Black Army, he fought the Turks in the south, occupied the eastern parts of Austria including Vienna, became King of Bohemia, and he almost even managed to get himself elected as Holy Roman Emperor. His second wife, Beatrice, was escorted to Buda by a retinue of Italian humanist philosophers, scientists and artists, who aided the king in making his court one of the most magnificent Renaissance royal seats of Europe. He established the largest library in the world of his time. Some of the famous Corvina codices are now exhibited in the National Library. The Golden Age of Hungary was followed by decades of conflicts, destruction and almost 150 years of occupation. The Ottoman Sultan Suleiman I the Magnificent launched a huge campaign from Istanbul to take over Hungary and open his way to Western Europe. In the tragic Battle of Mohács, On the 29th of August 1526, the Ottomans defeated the army of King Louis II, who died in the battle along with most of his lords and high-ranking clerics. After the fall of the medieval Kingdom of Hungary at the battlefield of Mohács and the civil war between self-appointed successors to the throne, Hungary fell into three parts. The central territories, including Buda, Pest and Óbuda, became part of the Ottoman Empire. Buda fell on the 29th of August 1541 and became the seat of the regional Turkish administration. Churches all around the occupied region were transformed into mosques, and at the same time numerous hammams, traditional Turkish baths, were built upon the healing springs. The eastern part of Hungary, including Transylvania, which belongs to Romania today, became an independent Christian vassal state of the Ottoman Empire, which safeguarded the national identity and language, culture, and opened itself to the influx of Protestant ideas of the Reformation movement at the same time. In 1558 in Torda, today Turda in Romania, the Transylvanian parliament declared religious freedom for both Catholic and Protestant Transylvanians, elected István Báthori as their prince, who was later to be elected King of Poland too. In the following decades of the Golden Age of Transylvania, under the reigns of Gábor Bethlen and György Rákóczi I, the principality enjoyed considerable independence. The western and northern parts, an area mostly equivalent to modern western Transdanubia in Hungary and Slovakia, remained under the rule of the Kingdom of Hungary, with the Habsburg dynasty in power. During the reign of Habsburg rulers, the emperors of Austria were in most cases kings of Hungary as well. The royal court moved to Vienna, and as a legacy of the Turkish occupation, Buda lost its position as center of Hungarian administration, since Pozsony, today Bratislava, Slovakia, became the capital and the city of coronations, as it was close enough to Vienna to be well controlled. Replacing Esztergom, Nagyszombat, today Trnava in Slovakia, was made the most important Roman Catholic center and the seat of the Archbishop of Esztergom. During the 1.5 centuries of Turkish occupation, there was a constant fight for dominance and control over the territories of Hungary between the Habsburgs and the Ottomans, sometimes even supported by the armed forces of the Hungarian princes of Transylvania. In 1552, the castle of Eger was besieged by the army of Suleiman the Magnificent, led by Pasha Kara Ahmed. Approximately 2,000 Hungarian defenders managed to repel an army of about 40,000 Ottoman soldiers. The novel Eclipse of the Crescent Moon, about the historical siege, written by Géza Gárdonyi, is required reading for Hungarian schoolchildren. The siege ended with a glorious Hungarian victory, however the city fell in the following siege in 1596. The siege of Sigetvar in 1566 is most well known because of the heroic resistance by Miklós Zrínyi, the captain of the castle and the Ban of Croatia. Suleiman the Magnificent, who took command of the siege himself, died in Sigetvar too. Legend has it that his death was kept a secret in order to prevent a confused Ottoman army losing their will to fight. During the 30 Years' War of 1618–1648, the Habsburg-ruled Kingdom of Hungary joined the Catholic League, while the Principality of Transylvania joined the Protestants. The 17th century eventually brought a slow decline in Ottoman dominance in the region. Sultan Mehmed IV decided to fulfill his forefather's dream and launched an attack on Vienna and Austria in 1683. As the Ottomans suffered serious losses, the way to the occupied zones of Hungary opened up for the liberating Christian coalition, the so-called Holy League. It was established with the participation of Habsburg Austria and Hungary, Poland, Venice, Sweden and several German provinces such as Bavaria and Saxony and many other regional powers to defeat the Turks. As a result of a huge siege, Buda was recaptured and liberated on the 2nd of September 1686, followed by most of Hungary in the upcoming 3 years. The liberation and the end of Ottoman rule was recognized by the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699. But the consequences of 1.5 centuries of constant fights were serious. Entire regions with their medieval heritage were destroyed, and the desolation also changed the ethnic composition of Hungary. As a result of demographic losses, including deportations and massacres, the proportion of ethnic Hungarians in the country decreased seriously. and the new arrivals often had a very different ethnic and cultural background. These changes formed the base for the serious territorial losses dictated by the Treaty of Trianon 2.5 centuries later. The three parts of Hungary were once again under the same centralized power, but the Habsburg dynasty had a different idea of a re-establishment of Hungary. Under their reign, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Hungary within their Danubian Empire was constantly disputed. There were several anti-Habsburg movements politically connecting the three parts of the former medieval Hungary. The first significant one of such movements was led by István Bocskai, the Prince of Transylvania before the liberation between 1604 and 1606. Led by the Transylvanian prince Ferenc Rákóczi II, who later was elected ruling Prince of Hungary, a new war of independence started against the Habsburg court. Between 1703 and 1711, Rákóczi and his anti-Habsburg army, the so-called Kurz troops, fought and achieved multiple successes, but the civil war ended with the victory of Emperor and King Joseph I. Following the Treaty of Szatmár, Rákóczi and his officers went into exile in Turkey. But the dynasty's future was shadowed by the threat of male line extinction, since the monarch King Charles III had no male heir. Finally, he was succeeded on the throne by his daughter Maria Theresa, a move ensured by the famous bill the Pragmatica Sanctio. She married Francis, the Duke of Lorraine, who officially became the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, but in practice Maria Theresa acted as Empress. Due to her marriage, the Habsburg dynasty became the House of Habsburg-Lorraine. In Hungary, there was no legal obstacle to having a female monarch, but she officially had the title King of Hungary instead of Queen of Hungary between 1740 and 1780. During her reign, she settled tens of thousands of Germans in the abandoned parts of the country. Also, a number of important decrees are linked to her name, such as her significant education reform, the Ratio Educationis, which allowed public education to be controlled and managed by the state, and made it possible for children aged 6–12 to attend school. After the death of Maria Theresa, her eldest son Joseph II followed her on the throne, who is often referred to as the Hatted King, since he refused to be crowned with the Hungarian crown in order to evade Hungarian laws. He ruled by royal decrees, issuing nearly 6,000 during his 10-year reign. His patent of toleration in 1781 granted freedom of religion, took education out of the hands of the church, and made it the exclusive responsibility of the state. His decree on German as the official language too was a significant step towards his absolutistic imperial ideals. On his deathbed, he withdrew almost every decree he ever published, with only two exceptions.